Old black veteran was denied entry at a general's funeral until a 4-star general saluted him. An old man stood at the gates of Arlington Cemetery, wrinkled suit, faded medals, and sorrow in his eyes. When he tried to enter the funeral of a 4-star general, the guards blocked him without a second thought. But just as they turned him away, a black SUV screeched to a halt, and out stepped someone no one expected. The funeral stopped. The flags paused. And what happened next shocked every soul there. This is the story of how a forgotten black veteran received a salute that echoed through military history. Please support us by subscribe, like, and share for more with activating the notification bell. Thank you. Elijah Turner stood with his back straight despite the weight of his years. At 87, his legs trembled, but his spirit never had. His faded olive green uniform bore patches of history, stitched by battles and time. The medals on his chest were not polished for show but worn like scars, a quiet testament to battles fought long ago. He approached the cemetery gates with reverence. In his hand was a small folded paper, a decades-old photo of him and a young white lieutenant smiling in a war zone. That lieutenant would go on to become General Douglas Harper. 2 young military guards blocked his path. "Sir, may I see your invitation?" "I don't have one," Elijah replied. "I served with him. In 44. Normandy." The guard raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry, sir, this funeral is restricted. Family and select military only." "He was family," Elijah whispered. "Not by blood, by war." Another guard chuckled under his breath. "History, old man. You can't just walk in." As Elijah stood still, heart heavy, he clutched the photo. He had come to say goodbye to a man who once told him, "If I survive this war, I owe you my life." Tears welled up, but Elijah refused to let them fall. He turned slowly, cane tapping the ground. One step. Then another. But just as he reached the gate's edge, something happened that would stop everyone cold. Before he was a forgotten face at a funeral gate, Elijah Turner was a legend, just no one had ever told his story. Born in a small segregated town in Alabama, Elijah was the son of sharecroppers. His father served in World War I but came home with no honor, no recognition, and certainly no benefits. Elijah grew up hearing stories of valor that were never rewarded. At 17, he forged his age and enlisted in the U.S. Army. He was assigned to the 761st Tank Battalion, an all-black unit known as the Black Panthers. They were brave, disciplined, and sent into some of the most dangerous missions with little support. Despite the segregation within the military, they proved themselves again and again. It was during a mission in northern France that Elijah met then-Lieutenant Douglas Harper. The lieutenant's unit was ambushed, and Harper was left behind, bleeding beneath rubble. Elijah, hearing cries over radio static, disobeyed a direct order and went back for him. He found Harper, carried him on his back for 2 miles under sniper fire. When they returned, no one clapped. No medals were given. But Harper, bandaged and shaken, looked at Elijah and said, "One day, if I ever wear stars on my shoulder, you'll be the first man I salute." After the war, Elijah returned to the South. Jim Crow laws stripped him of dignity. He worked as a janitor, a mechanic, and sometimes as a porter. No one ever knew what he did in the war. He never boasted. But every year on Memorial Day, he wore that same uniform, medals and all, and saluted a flag that barely saluted him back. Yet today, he wasn't asking for medals. He was just trying to say goodbye to an old friend. As Elijah turned to leave, defeated and disheartened, a loud screech of tires on gravel echoed through the cemetery entrance. A sleek black SUV pulled up, engine humming. Doors flew open and out stepped Major General David Harper, the only son of the late General Harper, dressed in immaculate uniform, ribbons gleaming in the sun. His stern face scanned the scene and immediately locked onto Elijah. He strode toward the guards. "Why is this man standing outside?" "Sir, he didn't have credentials," one guard replied. "He claimed to have served with your father." David looked at Elijah. "Sir, may I know your name?" "Elijah Turner," came the quiet reply. Without hesitation, the general snapped into a sharp salute. Gasps rippled through the crowd gathering inside. The guards stood frozen. Photographers dropped their cameras. Even the honor guard paused. "My father told me, David began, voice loud and unwavering, that the only reason he came home from the war was because of a soldier named Elijah Turner. He said, "If you ever meet him, stop what you're doing and honor him. That man is the reason I got to live my life." David took Elijah's arm gently. "Sir, it is you who should be front and center today." Elijah's lip quivered, but he stood tall. Together, they walked through the cemetery gates. Every soldier along the path stood at attention. Salutes followed their steps. This time, Northwest One questioned his place. The air was solemn inside the funeral tent. Rows of dignitaries sat in silence. Flags fluttered gently in the breeze. The ceremony was just about to begin when General David Harper stepped up to the microphone. "Before we honor my father, I ask for a moment," he said. "Because there's a story most of you don't know." He looked at the audience, then back at Elijah sitting in the front row. "My father didn't become a hero alone. When he was just a boy lieutenant, bleeding out in a ditch in France, a black tank operator named Elijah Turner defied orders and saved him. My father said that one act shaped his whole life. It changed how he led, who he promoted, and why he always said, 'A true soldier is defined by courage, not color.'" Gasps gave way to tears. Even the vice president dabbed his eyes. David pointed toward Elijah. "That man is why we're here." And yet, he almost didn't make it through the gate. Elijah tried to speak but couldn't. The moment had swallowed him whole. But applause burst forth. Generals, veterans, civilians, they rose to their feet and clapped. For Elijah. For the forgotten. The funeral resumed, but everything had changed. It was no longer just a farewell to a general. It was a recognition of a man history had almost erased. In the days after the funeral, a video of the moment David Harper saluted Elijah Turner flooded social media. News anchors replayed it. Journalists tracked down Elijah's story. Schools taught his name. Military historians dug into the 761st Tank Battalion and called for overdue honors. Veterans who had served quietly, like Elijah, found their voices. Petitions were signed. Congress passed a resolution to formally honor the 761st. Elijah was invited to the White House. He spoke briefly. "We didn't ask for awards. We just wanted to be remembered." He received a standing ovation from an audience that finally saw him. Months later, a new plaque was unveiled at Arlington, just beside General Harper's grave. It bore the inscription, "In memory of Sergeant Elijah Turner and the brave souls of the 761st Tank Battalion. Heroes who served silently and saved loudly." In his final years, Elijah didn't seek fame. He continued living humbly, teaching kids in his neighborhood about integrity, honor, and service. But every Memorial Day after that, he no longer saluted alone. He stood surrounded by generations who now knew his name. And when he passed away, the military buried him with full honors. Right beside the general he once saved. Because some salutes change everything.